Welcome back to this month's Roundtable. It's May 1st with over 4,500 tune-ins and downloads monthly. This show just continues to keep growing. It is your all-in-one comprehensive view of what's happening straight across the industry, across every sector, all in one place. Technology, marketing, construction, brokerage, capital, policy. This is always a three-part show. Part one, introductions, what's new for each of our roundtable hosts in their business sector. Part two, sector focus, where we unpack the month's biggest news and paradigm shifts. Part three, what does it mean for your real estate business, and what can you do in the next 30 days to outpace your competition? I'm Andreas, Senie, founder, CEO of CRECollaborative and growth strategist. Joining me this month is none other than Becca Carlson Integrated President, former president, Nightcar, CEO of Carlson Integrated. Becca, nice to see you as always.
Great to see you too, Andreas.
Here we are in May, and we are shifting our producers, so our technology is catching up to how great we are in person. Also joining us this month, none other than Chris Abel, VP at Associated Builders and Contractors. Chris, welcome back. We've got a former broker, or rather a brokerage owner, a current broker, and construction on the call. Darren can't be with us today, and Dan is in Washington fighting for 1031 exchange and our other incentives that make commercial real estate so great. Saul Klein should hopefully be joining us a bit later, but to start, Becca, tell me what's the latest and greatest in your side of the world, marketing.
Oh, well, we are in convention season and conference season. And as a marketing firm, we are very excited about all of the great showing our clients are having at their conferences. In particular, we have ICSC Las Vegas on the retail shopping center side of the industry, and that is later this month. And we have 3 clients with booths. We're hosting and coordinating and working 2 events during that time, tons of meetings, and hopefully seeing several hundred of our nearest and dearest friends in commercial real estate in that retail sector. So that's definitely coming up.
ICSC Vegas, May 18th through the 20th, with the next Realty Luncheon, which you've hosted for years now. They're one of the largest attended private events. 20 years?
20 years.
Yeah. And hundreds of our friends and colleagues and partners. This is one of the most attended shows of the year. If you're in retail, it is the place to be. And the luncheon is the place to get invited to. So that being said, I know, Chris, you're also headed to San Antonio for ABC next week to speak. We've got CRETech New York. We'll talk more about that later. But as far as marketing and getting ready for ICSC, you guys are out pushing a lot of marketing back up for the show. Are people attending? Is it as big as it was last year, or going to be bigger?
So it'll be bigger. It's been growing post-pandemic. So they're estimating about 24,000 attendees. And wow. It's really the hotel rooms are insanely expensive. The flights are expensive. It's a very, very popular weekend to be in Las Vegas because there are a number of events in the city that weekend. But we are very excited about the retail real estate professionals that we're going to see. There's a lot of new folks who are attending. I've gotten some outreach from some professional contacts saying, this is going to be my second year, my first year. Where should I go? What should I do? So we always have a little bit of convention tips, and we try to keep those on our website a lot this time of the year. And also reminding our clients, we've been getting out a lot of e-blasts and a lot of social media around scheduling appointments, because the layout of the conference this year is North Hall and South Hall. Central Hall is under construction, which means a lot of people are scheduling their appointments for all of Monday, for instance, at South Hall, all of Tuesday at North Hall, or something of that variation, because trekking between appointments is going to take a little bit longer. So it's really good. This coming week will be kind of that last ditch effort to get those calendars filled in a logical and possible way to get between appointments.
Well, that's right. You always got to be concerned about the conference. Yes, I mean, I've been going out to CSC for years, and it was a place where you'd start a deal and you'd have to come back and end the deal. All the principals are there, all the partners are there in one place, and that hasn't changed. although it's moved outside the conference in a lot of ways into these private events like the luncheon and other parties and events. Curious, Chris, is it the same for you at Associated Builders and Contractors? Everyone gathers, deals get done. What happens at that event?
Yeah, so the one conference next week is the one conference. It's in San Antonio. It's an ABC conference that is, and I'm excited because have never been down to Texas or San Antonio in particular. So I'm excited. This particular conference is, kind of opportunity networking and education is what the acronym stands for. It is an ABC National Staff Conference. So it's a great opportunity this year. Since I'm on the ABC, the National Membership Council, I have to go a couple of days early because that's where our new membership professionals do their orientation. And that's also where our new education professionals do their orientation. So I'll be with the National Membership Council the first 2 days, helping with the orientation and getting the new membership professionals on board, which is a lot of fun. Last year, I was not part of that council, so I just went for the 3 days or 2.5 days after. And then Tuesday afternoon, the actual conference kind of kicks off. And then, so I'll be getting some training in. I'll be getting some training back. And on Wednesday, I'm going to be speaking on a panel with a couple of my favorite membership professionals. And the nice thing is we have 3 vice presidents on that council, on that panel, that all were membership directors. So it's a nice way to kind of say, hey, listen, this is where you start. This is where you can go. It doesn't take a long period of time. So it's a lot of give and take, and we get to meet our strategic partners. We get to meet some people from the ABC National Tech Alliance, and we get to bring back a lot of really cool stuff. Not only some nice swag items, but obviously mostly information. We get to bring it back to the chapter and kind of say, hey, this is what's going on. And it's exciting. It's exciting. And we also have a luncheon at the event where they celebrate the chapters and all the great things that are going on at the chapters.
This is your first time attending as VP, right? So you recently promoted. Now you're speaking on a big panel. And just yesterday, you were saying you had career day.
Yeah,
and
so
we're a buzz. I mean, we're short on labor. Nobody's going to tell you they have enough work, enough laborers, unless you're going to tell us different. So
no.
Go ahead.
Highlights of career day. So many chapters do these construction career days. Yesterday we had almost 1,000 students. They come out to a spot in Wallingford, Connecticut. It's actually a church grounds, which we utilize, has nothing to do with the church, but they have a beautiful, beautiful setup indoor, outdoor there. A bunch of our members, volunteers, industry partners get together, and long story short, they come out, they get a bag of PPE. So they get their hard hats, their gloves, their goggles, safety goggles, their earplugs if they need them. And they do a quick safety orientation with a safety professional from one of our largest member companies. And then we kind of let the kids loose indoors, outdoors. They are climbing utility poles that the UI actually puts in about 3 days before. They are out there and they are operating heavy machinery. They are wiring light bulbs and all sorts of different stuff indoors. One of the coolest things I saw yesterday was a construction management company was struggling with how do we get these hands-on activities. So what they did was they set up a board with a sequencer, and they gave the kids cards, and they basically got to try to take guesses on how the construction process actually pans out from start to finish, which I found, and shout out to Fortunato Construction Group here in Connecticut for setting that up, Lindsay and her team, because it was a very interesting thing that you can do. But if you didn't want to get out there and get your hands dirty and start putting out fires and learn how to operate fire extinguishers and all these different things, it was a really good activity because the kids were starting to drum up a lot of different questions. And
it was getting people
awesome.
Engaged.
Yeah, it was really getting people engaged. Yeah, absolutely. So I apologize if you guys hear something upstairs. I got a 6-month-old puppy upstairs, and I think someone just got home. So
We need a new another character on the show. Just bring him on.
We could. It's talking about he is a character in every sense of the words, but
Well,
I think people just got in and yeah. So it's great. It's been a good week, and it's going to be a good week next week also.
Oh, I'm super excited for you. I know you've been super busy. On average, we used to catch up. We had plenty of time in between these shows, and less now because the industry seems to be busier. At least I'm busier. You're busier.
Yeah,
you seem to be busier.
We're overdue, and quite frankly, what's nice is there's a lesson in there in, you don't want to start getting too busy and not catch up with the people who got you to be busy. I was talking about this show.
Have never been said.
I started my day off at a breakfast with a new member, and I was talking about this show and saying, listen, if it wasn't for ABC, this wouldn't be a thing. And Becca, yesterday, we also had an SMPS booth at the Construction Career Days, and they were swamped. And SMPS, the Society of Marketing Professional Services, just people there talking about marketing in the AEC industry.
So wonderful.
It was kind of neat. It was cool to see. They usually aren't that busy, and they were mobbed with people wanting to know about marketing in the industry, which is great.
Well, so that's a perfect segue. Becca, what has changed? What's happening in the industry as this rapid world evolves around us? I know brokerage is busy, but it's always the basics with brokerage. Network is your net worth. It's deal making. Not much has changed there. But on the marketing side, all of a sudden, on every feed I have, I'm seeing this shift to videos where people are walking through buildings. All of a sudden, so expand on that. Clearly, people are interested. Marketing, booth, and all.
Well, part of it is that the social platforms have prioritized video content. So the algorithm's showing it more frequently. And that is a change. LinkedIn in particular had always deprioritized video. They made a conscious decision to change that within the algorithm towards the end of last year. And so you are going to see more of that content showing up simply because the algorithm wants you to. We were doing some research over the past couple of months, and there are some really big opportunities, particularly in being active on LinkedIn, to where 95% of LinkedIn users don't post on a weekly basis, which means the 5% that do have a really phenomenal opportunity to gain market share and traction within that platform in particular. So we've been quietly but consistently reminding people that there's an opportunity that they can take advantage of. And we're always happy to help. But regardless of whether we're the solution for doing that or not, the reality is that there's this great medium for your content. And even though you do see a handful of people on a regular basis, the reality is when you look at that in, those percentages of users, there's a lot of people who aren't, but are still on there on a regular basis, right? They're still lurking. They're still seeing what's going on, and they still have feeds that they can interact with or participate or just see your content. So the organic reach is down, and there have been some constraints around that from an analytics standpoint, in that hashtags aren't as useful or viable. And honestly, LinkedIn started deprecating them almost 2 years ago. So it's no surprise that they're not as useful. But anytime you have the opportunity to post
shoot video or do a show,
tag people, tag
that's
companies, that's how you can achieve organic reach. And it's really kind of the only way you can achieve organic reach these days. Hypothetically, they say that AI is now bringing the content that we want in front of us rather than following hashtags. But I don't know about you guys, but my feed has been very full of paid advertisers. So if AI equals paid advertisers, then yes, I'm getting way more content, but I'm not getting information on marketing that's not paid content. I'm not getting that organically. So it is important to follow if there are thought leaders or people on LinkedIn that you actually want to see what they have to say. It is important to follow them because it's not going to magically show up for you, and it kind of used to. I don't know. That's probably a rabbit hole.
It's interesting because I just brought on a social media manager at our chapter, and it was there was a few things during that conversation. One was we picked out a couple of the posts. Like when I actually got moved to vice president, she picked out a couple of the posts, and a couple of my friends who are in a similar space, user experience, basically said, Chris, like that's a lot of, you got a lot of hits there. There's a lot of eyes on that. And they're like, you should start posting more. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I totally know. I should start posting more. And it was an eye opener. And then the other thing, the reason I brought social media a manager just to come in and kind of check on a few things here and there was because I was putting a lot of posts up, but I wasn't tagging because I just didn't have the time. And I knew I was dropping the ball on it. There's a million other things to do besides marketing. I'm supposed to be working mostly on membership, but I needed to fill that gap. And simple example is just the anniversary post. You got companies that are there 1 year as a member of our chapter or 55 years. And they weren't getting tagged on those anniversary posts because I was basically just for a couple of years, all I could do was check off that box and kind of throw it up there when I wanted to. And just having her post those the right way, tag them the right way, it's just changing from 1 month. Because every membership report that I do each month, I do a quick social media report, and the amount of people that are following the LinkedIn, it just changes everything. And it's just these
hiring the right talent to leverage them and to do great things, better, bigger.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Well, it's
little changes,
essential
little
today.
changes.
But those little changes they create an entirely different level. At least in the brokerage side, we've had the same type of situation where certain follow-up, we have full-time paid dialers, right? People that follow up and call leads. We source deals. 27% of our business comes from the internet, inbound. The rest has to come from somewhere, and that's outbound. That's sourcing, networking. That's our relationships. So we hire. We found the right talent, not just a person, but the right person.
Yep.
And that's really been essential for us moving forward is the right people at the right time. Not so much a shortage of people, but the right people. Sorry, I'm getting pinged that my mic is not great. So Becca, please continue, and I'm going to fix my audio.
Yeah. Well, Chris, you touched on Career Day yesterday, but I would love to hear a little bit more about how that hiring, how our staffing within the trades is looking.
So there's a couple of really neat things going on. I've mentioned this a few times, but the Construction Education Center is our training center. And every year we've been getting more and more apprentices to record every year, which is great for a few different reasons. One, we're, becoming more known and things are moving in the right direction, and schools are pushing students into those directions rather than just saying college. But here's a couple takeaways. So my heart is near and dear to this Construction Career Day because that's where ABC actually found me 7 years ago. That's where I was. I was there with the school that I was helping recruit for. I love the event, and it's very, very hands-on. Okay. So something I've noticed the past 2 years, and yesterday even more so, there was a couple things that I noticed, three takeaways. One was the first one was more just promotional items. The promotional items of getting the suction cup pens that the kids stick on their hard hats and the silly stuff or whatever the case is. There was a little bit less of that. And that wasn't my only takeaway from that was it made the event look better and more serious, which I really realized we may have to take heed to that next year and kind of let these exhibitors know, hey, listen, no funky sunglasses, let's keep it. And that was just natural. That was a natural thing that people just didn't have that stuff, which was kind of nice. The second thing was a lot less college shirts being worn. So we're talking April, beginning of May. This is definitely a field trip for a lot of high school students. So it used to be where I'd see a lot of the students, they'd be walking around, they'd be having a great time, but I would see around this part of the country in Connecticut, Yukon shirts. I'd see the Fairfield shirts. I'd see the shirts for, Michigan, wherever they were going to school, you would see a lot of those shirts because that's the time of year where the kids start showing off their swag items that they're getting from the schools and all that sort of stuff. Lot less of that the past 2 years, hardly any of it yesterday, which tells me that two things. One, this is the third thing, is that those guidance counselors and teachers that are bringing those students, now mind you, it used to be a 2-day event. Now it's a 1-day event. They are being a little more diligent and a little more serious about who they're coming out, who they're bringing to this event, and how quickly they are signing up. So I feel like some of the schools that are saying all our kids go to colleges anyway are also kind of cognizant of like, maybe we go, maybe we don't go. Our kids last year just went for 20 minutes. They walked around, then they went and had lunch in the cafeteria or the big, cafeteria type room. They were playing on their phones. The kids seemed a little more serious the past 2 years, which is good because now that means the teachers are being a little more cognizant of who they're bringing to this. All good things, everything totally positive, which is really, really nice. The hiring, we can't just turn that at a moment's notice. I know that the current administration has a pledge to get X amount of apprentices. I forgot what the number was. But the thing is, it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. When you start making those pledges about getting a certain amount of people doing this or doing that, you have to interest those people. I mean, you got to interest them. You have to find ways to get them moving at the grade level, at a younger grade level, and move them all the way up. You're not just going to turn around and go, all right, you know what? We're just going to find 1 million people that now want to go into apprenticeships. It's not there. Math doesn't equal out that way, but
but the trend is there. Things. There's more and more people looking into the trades. This is something we talk about frequently. Yep. So as far as the industry itself, we have the labor force. There wasn't there wasn't that sudden drop in labor force that was expected and talked about. At least not enough to interrupt construction. Any jobs stop short? Maybe not.
Maybe not. There's about 450,000 open spots that we need to really fill. I mean, that gap is definitely there.
Wow.
It's a big gap.
Yeah,
it's nationwide. It's a big gap, but at the same time, like, you can't just turn around and just snap your fingers and go, all right, we need, 500,000 apprentices right now. It just doesn't happen. But listen, the companies that are managing their people the right way and the companies that are really doing a good job, they're staying busy and they're going to continue to stay busy. It's not like the construction industry does not throw in the towel and say, you know what, we're just going to stop building. There's still money to be made. It's still a lucrative business. You still have people and you could still keep them extremely busy. They just need more of them.
So one of our owners here in Connecticut, Cinto, he's well known for literally sending his employees on vacation if he doesn't have to work for them. Right?
Yep.
If you work for Cinto and you're in property management, if you're doing the build out and he's got 92% occupancy, his buildings are full. If he doesn't have work for you, he keeps you busy to make sure that they're around. They don't disappear.
Yeah.
So they can keep working. And, at the brokerage side, we're busy. We're sure busier on the smaller deals. You open the door to a regulation conversation and what's happening at a macro level. So I will talk about that a bit. Candidly, yes, things are happening. There's a lot of uncertainty and volatility, but that is when things are uncertain and there's volatility in the markets, people flee to real estate. That's an asset. It's like gold. Buy commercial real estate, and we need people to build it. So as long as our marketing stays in check and works well, we have never been busier. So yes, regulation, promises, all these things, some of which have gotten in the way. I've had deals implode because of things that have come out of regulation, for sure. I'm not denying that, but opportunities have also presented if you were there to look for them.
Sure.
It's a question of where, when. So, and where and when is at these conferences through your network and through social media. Guys, hopefully my volume's better. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Again, I can't believe we're almost at 100 shows with such a big audience at this stage and we're having technical difficulties, but every month will be better. We'll just keep growing it. The May, all set. We've got our shows lined up. We've got CRETech. You're speaking. Saul is headed to Paris for December, I believe, for the MLS forum. Darren has been on numerous panels and events this last month. And it's just been one thing after another. And I'm circling back here, Chris, to your earlier point, checking back in with those that have brought you there and bring you places. I will admit that I have not done as good a job as I used to at following up with people that I, have done and grown with. Right. I used to be spot on with following up on a holiday. I would text everyone, happy holidays, because that was my way to check in with many of my network. But now it's just gotten so large. The network has gotten big, so big that I just can't do that. And it's not for lack of trying, because I do try to hit everybody on this show and my audience members, and my clients. Don't get me wrong. But how else can we cut through that noise as we head in the halfway mark of the show? Back up on the marketing side.
Oh, wow. How do we cut through that noise? That's
Becca's like, you were better when your audio was off.
right.
Hey,
We're shutting you
You
down.
have the answer. Becca knows.
Well, and maybe that's the answer. Go ahead.
No, anytime that you can create things that are programmatic and process oriented versus at the just something that you have to think of that day, it's always better. And, there's technology solutions that can be utilized, and we have a lot of clients that are doing that. There's certainly that social media management of thinking in advance that there's important anniversaries or important company events or holidays or things like that, and acknowledging those in some, very sincere ways. I have colleagues that occasionally will just they have a list of people and they start just posting about them on social media. I had a very good friend post about me last week. I was totally blushing like crazy because I don't always like that much attention. But it was so kind and so thoughtful. And so there are ways that you can be a little bit more programmatic without having to do those individual outreach touch point. Did she accomplish as much just by talking about me in a social post? Did I feel completely honored and loved and all of those things without her even having to make a phone call? Yeah. That's the reality of it, right? Saying good things about other people in a public forum is a pretty powerful way to build those relationships.
You are who you're with, right? So your network being your network. So that's spot on. Saul was the one that taught me to hit the like button on Facebook. He was like, no, don't just scroll. Hit the button.
Yeah.
And so, there are built-in reminders for me to follow up, for professionals to follow up with everyone. You can't walk in and buy stationery at a store anymore and send a note. That's a hard to get item. But it was something
it's not that hard, Andreas.
Walk into a CVS and ask. No, nice stationery, a nice note card. We're not talking just a regular letter. There's something to be said for snail mail. I like sending letters. That's how we source a lot of business. I like sending cards. I hate texting. It's the bane of my existence now. And I'm afraid to be programmatic with my partners in my outreach. Is really the point. Because if it's programmatic, it seems insincere. I remember them, I think of them, and I want to make time for them. So where does that line blur?
Right, but the programmatic outreach is right. Do you have a monthly calendar where you're your tickler of, I need to check in with these people on a quarterly basis? So the 1st of May.
Well, those are my clients. Those are client check-ins, right? Just like Chris has his member check-ins.
You could.
But I'm talking about my partners, the people.
You could put them on that list too, Andreas. You don't only have to check in with your client.
It would be a pretty large list. How many members do you have, Chris?
250. They're companies too. So
250 companies,
right?
Right. So we've got over 100 signed exclusive clients, plus my partners, plus my pipeline. Becca, how many clients are you guys working with? That's a big list. You're a marketing firm, so I'm sure they're all on a list.
We have about 65 active right now. Usually we have 40 to 50 active. So, and I think it's just the function of convention season. But you're right; it is really. it is hard to do. One thing that I have found to be kind of a cool way to check in or is to invite them to stuff, right? Is to have that list. And I have a list of hundreds of people that I literally was going through last weekend of like, oh, I need to invite them to this event and this event and this event. I did a spreadsheet, right? Kind of like, because that is an outreach. It's inviting them to do something with me while simultaneously like facilitating seeing a lot of people at once, which can be helpful versus one at a time.
Conferences are for. We get to see
Right,
all
but
our
not just
partners.
conferences. I have a really a good friend here in Chicago that has a community dining group that has events 2 or 3 times a month where a dozen people go and have a chef, like organic farm, chef driven, amazing meal. Well, like, why wouldn't I invite all my friends to that? That's perfect because then I get to see people and we get to do something, and it's something outside of the, oh, I'd love to grab a Zoom or I'd love to grab a coffee, and suddenly you have no availability for the next 2 months.
Well, Brews with Beers, that's what Chris does.
Yeah.
Brews with Builders, that's
Yeah.
their version.
Exactly.
Got a couple
I
of them
need
coming
to,
up.
I need to find a brokerage version. I got it. I'm listening. Thank you.
My broker,
This is
think about my
helpful.
broker breakfast for NICAR.
Broker breakfast. All right.
I do like clockwork, third Wednesday, every other month on odd months. It's literally for the past 7 years. And I have a list of 300 people, and I usually have 20 to 30 people there. They rotate in and out when they're available and not available, but it forces those touches with our membership, right? And because not everybody can be a member of NICAR, it also includes all my real estate friends, all my broker friends that I know live in the area. And so you get a really great mix of professional, amazing commercial real estate brokers who can't be members of NICAR because they're not under that kind of NAR umbrella. And then like awesome people who are members of NICAR. And then people who we get to work with that are in professional services like inspections or lenders, all of those guys get invited and come too. And it's just like this big happy family of people talking about deals. Like everybody in real estate loves talking deals. It makes everybody so happy.
It's our bread and butter, and we have the broker luncheon. There's a monthly luncheon. We're hosting it in September, last Friday of the month at our Stanford office. We had 150 people turn out last year. The mayor speaks. It's the original luncheon, right? Your needs and leads, the stuff we don't put online. But it sounds like I need to be doing more smaller events, at least in our business. My team can do that, and that's something we just haven't focused on. We've just been 95, 96. So thank you for that tip.
Just ideas.
Well, they're all good ideas, right? They're ideas that are clearly working because you're busier than last year. I'm busier than last year. Chris is busier than last year. I don't think it's just from the show, but I'd like to take all the credit and say it's just the show. And thank you to our audience for being here and growing with us. Certainly 76% of our audience, North America, 13% in Europe, 8% in Asia, 4,500 tune-ins and downloads, not a small thing. In the top 10% globally. So thank you to my co-hosts, the ones that are here and the ones that are not here this month. See, I gave my thanks. There was that tip right then and there. So as we head into the second part of the show, we've had some shifts, we've had some changes. Everybody's still doing business. The news, while it may be terrifying depending on what you listen to, nobody has stopped doing business, right? You're doing more, and you're back to basics on the marketing side, on the construction side. Brokerage is busier than ever. I mean, people have said to me, aren't you guys worried? And I'm not worried. Are you worried coming into the second half of this year, going into May, June, for your business at all? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes and no, more no, because at the end of the day, whatever's going on, you got to get strategic and figure out new ways to do things. To your point, like people are still building, things are still going on, business is still happening. So I know that speaking to some of the contractors, especially the subcontractors, especially contractors, the cost of things are going up for them. So there is going to come a time where they're going to get an invoice about renewal to an association, several associations. So my goal is to do the best I can to make those touches and do those things I need to do so that when they get that invoice, the majority of them, we went over 93% retention. We're facing over 94, probably 95. Like, we're in a great spot. But part of that is because I'm already having my concerns about 2026's retention. I already am strategizing. I'm already seeing certain things happening. So the goal is always to figure out how you can go 90 or above with ABC. That's no secret. That's what it is throughout all the chapters. That's why we get together next week to talk about this stuff. The idea is finding a path to that the right way, an ethical way, in a strategic way, based upon providing value to the members. So when they do get that invoice, and they're pumping out major dollars that they weren't pumping out last year for, I was chatting with a plumber this morning. I was chatting with an electrician a couple of days ago. They're telling me the percentages are higher. Everything's going up. Those two particular members, I'm not worried about them renewing next year because they're seeing value. So I have to take that and go, all right, well, how do I duplicate that 90% of 250 and figure it out? And that's what makes the job fun, and that's what makes it interesting. But I am a little bit concerned about having something that's not tangible technically and having people have to look at an invoice and then try to make a decision. I'm not going to convince them of their decision, but if I can provide value that is convincing, it's a totally different ballgame.
Well, to Becca's point, you provide these events and you provide that networking. You are a pragmatic way for these people to keep connected to each other and the end user clients, right?
I mean,
ABC touches it all.
It's a case in point from how we met.
Exactly.
You called for a contractor, and that contractor got a job that got larger. We had never spoken before. And then we started
speaking about. You gave me the name
more.
of a good person. And that person, that was a good referral that turned into a great relationship.
Yeah. And that's how it, and that's no different than me telling my new member this morning that I wouldn't be on this wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't be on this show if it wasn't for ABC. So it works in so many different ways. I mean, those are literal examples. Forget all the behind the scenes stuff that we all do for our network. Right. And to be honest with you, Andreas, you texted me or tried calling me over the weekend. I was with the girls at the mall, and I texted you back, and we still need to catch up. But it was just nice to have that little, hey, I'm here, you're there. Okay, so if it was a huge emergency, you would have told me. If I was a huge emergency, I would have told you. But it was kind of like, okay, boom. Next thing you know, it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, oh crap, I didn't call him back. Okay, I'll chat. If I don't chat with him before Thursday, I'll chat with him Thursday, and then we could regroup. So, and then Becca, to your point, I'm actually staring at this list right now that's inside my little notebook. Can't really see it because I'm getting blocked out by my little fake screen. This is a list that gets sent to me every week by a contact of mine that is literally April 30th through December 19th of all the industry events going on, and he takes these events, including my events. I've put people onto this mailing list, and they love it because now they're getting it themselves. So there's little things that you could do. If I'm not really into manufacturing, but I get invited to a lot of manufacturing stuff. But I do have a few people that I know need to be in the room at those things. And it's simple as I did today, sending a link, something you might be interested in. BCC about 6-7 different people, put the link, and that's it. So there's ways of doing it, and then you kind of let karma and let goodwill kind of take over, and then you kind of hope from there.
Well, cream rises to the top as long as we continue to do the right things over and over and present value. Business presents. That's certainly true. Mm-hmm. Speaking of business presenting in the show, I will show this. This show is an immeasurable value. And I love checking with you guys every month and hearing firsthand, candidly, about the market, about what's happening in your sectors. But to everyone's point, those touch-ins and the reach of this show has actually returned real business. So I'm going to take both of your advice. both those pieces of advice, reach out more often and maybe tag some people into some of the other things I see, because I do it all day long with our team, right? We're always sharing internally and just checking in. But I've been hesitant to share things externally because I've been more worried about their time. And I want to be conscious of their time. And I don't want to interrupt their day unless it's important. And maybe that's a way in which I really should, because it could be important. And I just don't know. And it's a good way to check in. Although now my wife heard you say that I called you on the weekend, and until you come over for dinner, that's a work call. So I'm in trouble. But on the weekend. So thank you for that. Oh, boy. So reaching out, you're reaching out, business is growing, things are growing. We're at 6:40. What's the biggest piece of advice you could give our audience as we head into May? We head into this year. Becca, you're to my right.
All right. So my biggest piece of advice is to be found. And this is not something that we've talked a lot about during our show today, but I recently was able to do a podcast on AI and becoming found in those chat engines. And there's been some, like in ChatGPT or any of those kind of AI engines. And the reality is they're reacting to the content that's been put into them. So if you want to be found in those environments, you need to put some content in. So ask them to crawl your website, ask them to learn about you as a company, put in your brochures, put in information so that you can be the solution to so that you can answer the questions. All of Google search now, all of chat search is around answering questions. So how you position and frame your business as the answer to that question is really important. And it's something that I don't hear people talk about a lot, but I do just want to kind of bring it to the forefront. You want to be found in a variety of different mediums because people are utilizing different search queries on different platforms. And the best way to do that is to ensure that you're putting your information in to that repository of content that those arenas are crawling. So it's, I know, totally different, totally off topic.
Well, you could have started that earlier because we could talk all day about that. So being number one on Google was the thing 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I still think it's the thing today. You're saying it's actually not the thing, that most people are going to ChatGPT or Perplexity or others. And the only way to
there's more than just Google. And those generative AI sources aren't doing the exact, like they're not doing the identical crawl Google is. They're using kind of books of material, and those books of material are growing, but they didn't start with the capacity of like a Google that had all of the history, right? Because Google's been around a long time. So they had a finite base that they were searching, and that's growing. More content's always being added. But if you want to ensure that your content is added and that you're in there to answer the questions, you have to be a little proactive about it.
Well, so that's, most companies are having policies of don't put your stuff into these chatbots, right? Don't go to ChatGPT and accidentally expose confidential client information, which clearly we're not
talking about your corporate brochure.
You're saying go into ChatGPT as an example and ask it to rewrite your brochure, or how do you get it to do this?
So we have added, our website and asked it to summarize it,
which then puts it in the queue and gets it
in that search information, or put in our website and a little bit of information and tell me about this company. Like, how can we facilitate it being, and actually, you can suggest answers. So I was doing technology. I was, just trying to make sure that I had aggregated all the technology for marketing and posting platforms. And it gave me a whole list of posting platforms, but didn't mention Metricool, which is the one that we like to use. And so I actually educated, in this case, it was Gemini, but in this case, I educated it. Oh, you left out Metricool. Did you know Metricool does all of this and more? And their analytics are second to none. And you can combine your Google My Business profile, and you can combine your social media and your website and all of these things, and even paid advertising. And Google Gemini was very polite and said, "Oh, well, thank you so much. I'll add that in the future." Like, I actually was able to help Google Gemini know that this platform exists, which, by the way, is the platform of tons of companies. It's European based, but it's not like a little tiny baby company. It's a real, honestly viable option in that arena, right? It's constantly being educated.
Well, this is honestly probably one of the best tips we've had on this show, because I'm thinking it through and I'm going, well, if I'm Chris, I'm going to go start talking about how great the careers are in our industry, right? Labor, right? And the different trades and white papers. I remember when I was working with Agile CRM on the tech side, they blew it out of the water and became as big as they could, not because they spent a lot of money on advertising, because they just wrote how-tos and they compared themselves to the biggest players. This is how we do it compared to HubSpot. And they're one of the top 10 CRMs globally. Sure. You're saying, as a business, I should now go into Gemini, Perplexity, ChatGPT, all of them, and do the same. Sort of have my soapbox moment of, hey, this is how great my business is, or this is what we do in these platforms.
Correct.
Okay. That's a pretty big tip. Sounds like a lot of work. Is that a marketing service you provide? Is this the new SEO?
It probably is new SEO. I have no idea if people are doing it as a service. I mean, if you have a brochure, you're uploading the brochure and asking questions about it and summaries and things like that. So we took a testing approach to it, because we also wanted to see if we started generating traffic to our website, because you can check the analytics, right? You can see how it's working in real time. So one of my colleagues has a tech company, a tech consultancy. So the first month he wasn't expecting it, but he got one person like, oh, wow, a visitor came from ChatGPT. Next month, 3, next month, 7, next month, 11, right? People are using it as their search engine.
So can I ask, how many of your commercial investment clients, on the commercial investment brokerage side, you have funds, you have firms raising funds, right? And this is a regulated environment. It's very tricky. You're still, Adobe Pro, summarize my PDF. Okay, now it's in ChatGPT, right? That's what you're basically saying. Yeah. In a simplified manner. Take my brochure and make it better. Although we could be much more strategic about that. And wheels are turning. You just added a bunch of hours to my plate, but that's okay. Yeah. I think there's some very interesting tidbits.
It's easy. It's easier to think about it from a company standpoint and an organization standpoint than it is from XYZ property. Then it gets the layers get far more convoluted.
So on Facebook, we talk about people, right? Because the analytics show us that works. On LinkedIn, we talk about properties because those are received better. And you're saying on ChatGPT, you need to talk about your company mission.
It's how it solves the problem, because people are doing research to answer a question. So think of all the questions that you are answering with what you do, right? And that's kind of how SEO starts, or, the more recent regulations in that SEO environment and the AEO, all of those pieces are about answering the question, because people are accustomed to just asking questions. They're not looking up by keyword or search term as much as they are asking a question. And so you have how you want to be the solution to the answer that question. However you want to position that is where you can become kind of dominant. I don't know.
It's great advice. Yeah, it's new. Yeah. It's not underserved, but it's like YouTube, right? It wasn't as popular, and people that were Google My Business, that was the big. People that were on Google My Business got to the first page of Google because they were there first and they were active.
Yeah.
So this was really, truly, I think, one of the top 5 tips we've given out. Sure. So, depending, I'm going to come back in months from now after I go and fill all these things out. We'll see how that works. No, that was a totally different way to look at it, because I'm on Copilot with Microsoft. All our stuff is black boxed, and everybody in my team is staying away from the public ChatGPT type stuff.
Right. So
maybe we shouldn't
use it purposefully.
Correct.
Make it work for you. Don't put confidential stuff out there. That's weird.
You can't. Well, a lot of brokers were. A lot of firms. Yeah. I mean, it happened. So then the response was, let's do none of it. Right. Let's take a Darren Hayes approach of absolutely zero exposure and not touch it at all. and then we slowly started to open the spigot. But this is a totally new area that is immensely interesting for growth. Luke Klein, Fab Tech, cool event. Luke Klein, one of my favorite people in the whole world. Thank you for watching and tuning in and giving us a comment in the show. Shout out to you, my friend, and all you're going through. Excited to see you soon. Sorry, I just saw it pop up. And Lou is one of those people. His mind knows everything and everywhere. So I'm going to put him on how to get a sim as ChatGPT the right way. Chris, over to you. As we had it 10 minutes to the hour.
Yeah, to go back to what we were talking about a little while ago, piece of advice is contact people when you don't need them more than when you do need something. It goes a long way. And you can always kind of recover from. I've had a couple people in my past where, I needed something in particular. I reach out to them. And then you realize, like, it seems like I'm only reaching out to this person when I need something, even though we have such a great relationship. But at the same time, you can recover from that, and you could start reaching out to them and just kind of seeing how they're doing. And then they, it just builds relationships. And then the only other part is kind of goes back to what you were saying about, you're getting a whole bunch of, you're getting a whole bunch of paid stuff on your searches and all those sort of things. Is the idea of and I'm taking this from somebody else's thing, is just, it's same on my end. I'm not getting all the information I like. I'm just getting a lot of information, a lot of crap, quite frankly, that I'm not really into through my social channels and my searches. So I started doing this a while ago, kind of creating your own board of directors, your personal board of directors. And I don't think this is my idea. I'm pretty sure I grabbed it from someone else, but getting 4 to 6 people, 6 people, they can be famous, they could not be famous. It doesn't really matter. And kind of following them for, a certain amount of time, 6 months, a year. If you find someone not falling into your wheelhouse, you can switch them out. You can take them. Nobody has to know you're doing it, but if they have books, you read their books. If they have podcasts, to have their podcast. If they have none of that and they just happen to be someone within your inner circle, you're just kind of checking in and kind of seeing what they're doing and making sure that their feeds are, in your socials, so you can have an idea where they are. You're seeking those people out is basically what it comes down to. And getting 5 or 6 of them, do it for 6 months, then switch it up. Do it for a year, then switch it up. Kind of have it be a little more regimented to a situation where you can kind of have an idea of what makes them tick and how it kind of lines up with what you're doing. You don't have to agree with them or disagree with them, quite frankly. It's certain intrigue. You'll see people like, Gary Vee gets a lot of play, Ed Milet, things like that, but it doesn't have to be that. I have a business partner of mine that I've done tons of music stuff with and entertainment stuff with, and he just moves in a certain way. So I kind of follow what he's up to, see what he's doing, what's going on. But at the end of the day, it's not about picking up. He doesn't have a book. He doesn't have a podcast every week. It's just a matter of maybe even a phone conversation or seeing what he's got going on social or what the new music that he's listening to or sharing or producing sounds like. It's just worked for me really, really well to kind of have your own personal board of directors.
That's making sure you're in the right room, right? Said another way, that's you are who you're with. So you want to surround yourself and talk.
Not for nothing, like
right away.
Think of how much I when I first came onto this show, the amount of knowledge that was coming out of everybody was mind-boggling because I didn't know anybody on the show. Now it's a little bit different where it's mind-boggling because I'm part of it and it's a great opportunity. But when Saul first started just dropping like knowledge in those first couple shows, I immediately was like jotting. I think I said it during one of those first shows. I was jotting words down to either look up or just because I wanted to know more about it. Whether it was because I wanted to be more further part of the conversation, or just because I'm like, why wouldn't I?
Right.
Like, why wouldn't
that's being an investigative reporter. That was one of the tips from the
speaking in San Antonio. I've never been to Texas. You got these guys speaking in Paris. Yeah. They're going there for
Saul
a reason.
Just picks better events.
Well, that too. And, you know, I've learned more about a car wash in the last 4.5 years than I would have ever even thought. So, but that would be someone, you know,
to follow. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you pick a time frame, or you keep it, but you pick a time frame almost like they're your personal board. You have voted them to your board. It's an interesting way to do things, especially if you're younger and inexperienced. It's a great way to fast track.
Well, and especially today, because mentorship is a dying thing. It's, you know,
they're there. All you got to do is Google.
Apparently all you have to do is ask ChatGPT.
I have a gentleman where I signed up for his texts, and I just get his text messages whenever he feels like sending them out. I'm just on there.
Yeah.
And I've gotten, you know, they don't bother me. They're every once in a while, but there's ways of doing these things. It works, especially if you're younger and you're looking to like fast track your education when it works.
Well, and it takes time. You have to build it, right? So we've all been in the business long enough to have a network, to have grown our network. Some networks are larger than others, but if you're young enough, you got to build a foundation and keep growing.
Yeah.
Did you see Steven's comment on?
I did. I was just about to mention as a follow-up. So Steven Bielik, my technical genius, co-founder at CRECo.ai, and all around incredibly smart person. Be careful what you put into chat and which chat you put it into. I would even go along and say. So Steven was the one behind solving our problem at CRECo.ai, which was 2.7 million properties. When we start to match it exponentially, we couldn't do it. It broke because it was too many connections and not enough attention to the right connections and the right people, which is in fact the overriding theme of this show, right? The right people, right time, the advice that's being given. So love the advice, love the comments in the chat. Lucan, Steven, thank you for watching the show and tuning in as well. Always seek advice from those in the places you want to be. I will add to that, don't take advice from those who have no vested interest in your success. People who are just giving you advice, sometimes it's the wrong advice. Think it through. I've had a few lawyers kill a few deals because they were overcautious. They weren't vested in the outcome. Think through who you're getting your advice from. That's my tip for the month. Looking forward to seeing everyone next month, especially my co-hosts, especially the audience. I hope you have an incredible time in Vegas. We're going to get mics and cameras and just send you out into the world. I'm thinking, maybe, we'll see. We've got a new producer coming in to do the show. But as the month heads in, Becca, how does everybody reach you? Let's see if I can do this justice. Becca Carlson, there you go.
CarlsonIntegrated.com. Very easy.
And your team continues to grow and find you on Perplexity as well. Just search for it. That's what I'm hearing. Chris Abel, how do they reach out to you and why?
Email is probably best. Abel, ABEL at ctabc.org is probably the best one. And I'm always up for networking and kind of sharing. There's very few I could find value in talking to a brick wall. So I'm more than willing to have conversations with anybody about pretty much anything.
Well, it goes without saying, conversations lead to connection leads to network leads to deals. It's real estate. That's the way business has always been done. So once again, I want to thank my co-hosts. I want to thank our audience. We look forward to seeing you in June. Thank you all for coming. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Roundtable, powered by CRECo.ai, your source for the latest in real estate and technology. For past episodes, sector interviews, and more great content, follow us on all social media and YouTube at CRECollaborative. You can also find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please like, subscribe, and share. It really does help. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next Real Estate Roundtable.